In this episode, we're talking about how to create evergreen content that stays relevant long term. Now, evergreen content is one of the most valuable assets you can create online, but it's also one of the most misunderstood. The word evergreen has become a marketing buzzword. People use it to describe things that are not actually evergreen, like an evergreen webinar. Usually what they mean is it converts well enough that we can keep spending money on ads. And listen, that's valuable. If you have a webinar that consistently converts, well then keep running it. I would just call that a high converting webinar. I wouldn't call it evergreen. True evergreen content is something very different, and when it's done right, it can outperform paid traffic by a long shot. So the word evergreen comes from the trees, right? They stay green all year long. Well, the content equivalent is content that continues producing results over time. Not because you keep paying for traffic, but because people continue finding it organically, no ads required. And there's a very specific type of content that does this extremely well. Now, what's exciting is it's predictable, it's scalable, and it's actually easier to create than most people think. Most content online is not evergreen. It has no built-in mechanism for long life. You post it, it gets pushed out to your followers, maybe it goes viral and it gives you a spike of views, and then it disappears forever. This is non-evergreen content. Honestly, most social media platforms are designed this way. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, they don't organize historical content around any type of structure. You can't search for content on social platforms. If you're looking for a great article on a topic or a great video on a topic and you search for it, you do not find it on those social platforms. Instead, those platforms are organized around momentum, virality, recency, and what's happening right now. So if you follow trends, then you increase your chances of getting temporary attention, but those trends expire, and it means that the content expires too. Its value just disappears. So when you're looking at YouTube analytics, you'll see a spike of growth, and then it just flattens out. So this is where creators get trapped. They spend all their energy creating content with no shelf life. Every week starts back at the drawing board. Real evergreen content works completely different. It's tied to persistent human questions, questions that people asked 3 years ago, questions they're asking today, and questions they'll still be asking 3 years from now. So if your video becomes the answer to that question, then it keeps working and working. And that's a big difference. Here's a video we posted 8 years ago, and it's still ranking at the top. When someone finds your video at the exact moment they need help, that creates a very different experience than a random viral entertaining video. They feel understood, they feel relieved, or they feel grateful that you made that video to answer their question. You solved their problem that they actively needed help with. Now, those problems that you can solve in video, they don't expire. People are going to continue having that problem and asking questions about it online. That's why true evergreen content doesn't have an expiration date. And one of the biggest misconceptions about content is that people think virality is predictable. It's not at all. Now, if someone claimed, I know this video is going to go viral before I film it, it would be a pretty outrageous claim. For every viral success, there are thousands of failures. But evergreen content is the opposite. Evergreen content is highly predictable. We can literally identify hundreds or even thousands of evergreen video opportunities ahead of time, and the success rate is dramatically higher. If I were to put a number to it, I would say 95%. This is because we already know that people are consistently searching for those answers. The questions already exist, so the demand already exists, and we're simply creating the best answer to that. That's why I can confidently say before we film, this video will be valuable years from now. The question we're answering in that video doesn't expire, it doesn't go away. The specific type of evergreen content I'm talking about is long-tail question-based content, very specific questions. The longer and more detailed the question is, the better, because that's how real people search online these days. Now, what's great for you is this type of content is actually easier to produce. You don't need a giant production setup. You don't need travel footage. You don't need cinematic storytelling. You don't need to be constantly reinventing yourself. Most of the time, it's just talking head content like this. You're answering someone's question as if you were on a Zoom call with them. So being able to create simple videos like this actually is very powerful because now content creation becomes systematic instead of emotionally exhausting. You're no longer waking up every day trying to invent fresh ideas. You're not feeding that hamster wheel. You're creating content that your dream clients are already asking for. And this dramatically reduces your creative fatigue. And one of the best examples of this is Stan the Annuity Man. There have been hundreds of insurance agents trying to use YouTube to grow their business, and they've all failed. But Stan completely dominated and succeeded. Why? Because he committed fully to evergreen content. Even when the topics felt repetitive, even when the questions sounded boring, specific annuity riders or policy structures, very niche questions, he's just answered all of them, and he answered them with energy and enthusiasm. So when someone searched that very specific question, they felt validated. They felt like, finally somebody actually understands what I'm trying to figure out. So we helped Stan create hundreds and hundreds of these videos, and now he's become the #1 annuity agent in America by 4 times. Because when people have annuity questions, they find Stan the Annuity Man. And another example is Reagan Archibald in the men's health and peptides space. Now, there's hundreds of creators talking about peptides right now, but very few systematically build evergreen libraries around the exact questions people are asking. Now, we've helped Reagan do that. Now, in the last year, we've made hundreds of these videos, and within that year, he went from unknown online to category dominance. He's got 100,000 views from search every single month. This isn't because of chasing trends or flashy entertainment. It's because his content keeps showing up when people need answers. That's the power of evergreen infrastructure. So I know you're excited about when a video spikes, but there's a huge difference between a spike and this stable infrastructure. A viral video creates excitement. You'll see the views climbing, people sharing it, and it feels validating. But a lot of viral content attracts people who are never actually potential clients. They were entertained, they were curious, but they were never buyers. Evergreen content is different. Evergreen content attracts buyers. The person searching a very specific question is often much closer to becoming a lead. So even if the view count is lower, the business value is dramatically higher. Now, does that mean that creators should only make evergreen content? Not necessarily. I think you need to understand the difference between marketing content and nurturing content. So evergreen content is phenomenal for marketing. It helps new people discover you. It brings dream clients organically, but trending or topical content can still be used for nurturing. It helps your audience know that you're current. It keeps you top of mind. So that's why I often recommend that people use YouTube primarily for this evergreen marketing content, and then use platforms like email, Facebook, LinkedIn, for those nurturing conversations. So how do you actually build an evergreen strategy? Well, first you want to identify the category that you want to dominate, and you want to really specify the dream clients that you want to reach within that category. You need to understand the language that they use, because experts use jargon, but you want to talk in their language. What are they experiencing? What challenges do they have? What's frustrating them? What goals are they setting, or what problems are they trying to overcome? So the words they're using and the words that you might use that include your models or your jargon, they're obviously different. So we need to dig into their search behavior. What are the words that they're using when they go to ChatGPT or they go to YouTube search? The next step is to choose between all these different categories of questions and compare the categories against each other. Which categories align best with your expertise? Which categories have the greatest demand? And which categories contain the people that are most likely to need your services. Once you identify a group of questions like this, I call it a branch because I use a tree analogy. So once you identify that, each question becomes a video title. Each one's a separate episode. So you systematically build your evergreen library one video at a time, and over time, that library becomes an asset that keeps working long after you've published those videos. So if what I've talked about makes sense, and you're the type of creator who wants to dominate long-term and build this library instead of just viral content, you want to answer real questions and solve real problems, I want to teach you how to create the content that will work year after year. From this video, you kind of understand the foundation, and so now you're ready to learn how to dominate your category. So I've created another episode right there. It's called Achieve Category Dominance, and in that episode you'll learn the steps to become the ultimate go-to authority in your space. I'll see you there.